So, welcome to the Blue Ribbon application process. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Nana Ofuriade, and I am an evaluation and research analyst with CADCA. In this webinar, we will go through the application process for Blue Ribbon, talking about the requirements and processes. And I'm joined here by my colleague, Dr. Albert Tirillion, and he will help me talk about some of the processes. So joining us today are two of our 2023 Blue Ribbon Award winners. You'll be hearing more about their experiences later in this webinar. For the Coalition of Excellence Award, we have Jasmine Lopez from Communities for Positive Youth Development Coalition. And for the Coalition of the Year Award, we have Madeleine Marlowe from the East Providence Prevention Coalition. Jasmine Lopez is the Bilingual Prevention Service Manager and DFC Program Coordinator for her coalition. She has been with her coalition for 2 years. And Madeleine is the EPPC Coordinator and DFC Project Director. She oversees community coalition as they build capacity and community readiness to implement evidence-based or evidence-informed strategies to reduce risk factors and to also improve protective factors and promote healthy lifestyles for the residents of East Providence. And she has been with the coalition for almost 5 years. So I'll pass it over to my colleague, Dr. Tirillion, to go over this slide.
Thank you, Nana, and everyone. Again, my name is Albert Trillian, and it's my pleasure to be here with last year's winners, and of course, some members of the evaluation and research team. The Blue Ribbon application process is relatively new in the history of awards that come from CADCA. We have been recognizing exceptional coalitions since 2024. What makes the Blue Ribbon distinction so unique is that it is linked strongly to the training received by coalitions through the National Coalition Academy. And that means it is the only device that links up the positive outcomes that coalitions are able to achieve, really remarkable work, with the way that they were trained. The training is one of the first experiences of a coalition. They go through that training, they receive coalition development support. There are resources that are available. There are different meetings that we hold, of course, every year that they can attend. And all of these resources can lead to a successful Blue Ribbon application recognition. Let's go to the next slide. So the recognition is what I like to call the first community credential. It is something which acknowledges the work of a coalition and acknowledges their achievement, but also has real metrics attached to how they're doing their work. It's a 2-year recognition, and it really does help highlight what a coalition is doing well and how they're improving and transforming their community. The way that a coalition actually achieves the recognition is not through being a finalist in the application process. It's mainly through getting through that first phase of the application, where their products and what they're using are graded, the same products around which they're trained. Let's go to the next slide. We have a pretty good number of Blue Ribbon coalitions from the last 2 years. This slide actually shows them from the last year, but they will be coalitions for the next 2 years. And the reason we do that is once you refine your products and get them to a level of regular use and of leading to good outcomes, we think that there's something which can sustain a coalition well beyond their creation. Now, certainly you have to revisit your products and you have to renew them. They're dynamic resources, But that two-year recognition, from our perspective, reduces the burden on coalitions to have to submit them for grading. And again, I don't think it diminishes the recognition at all. Let's go to the next slide. Right now, we have quite a few coalitions that apply from year to year. Last year, we had 29 applications. 8 of them came from the Graduate Coalition Academy. 24 of them were drug-free community grant recipients coalitions, and then 4 had returned from a past level of success in participating in the Blue Ribbon application process. Let's go to the next slide.
So in the next couple of slides, I will talk about the application process. So going into the application, there is the Blue Ribbon Coalition's special recognition for outstanding coalitions. And all coalitions who move on to phase 2 of the application process will receive this 2-year credential. Also, you can apply for 3 Blue Ribbon Award categories. The coalitions that move on to phase 2 get recognized with one of these awards. So the first award is the Coalition in Focus, and this recognizes coalitions with strong short-term outcomes, which is 6 to 24 months. And this award is for new coalitions or coalitions starting an initiative on a new substance. The second one is the Coalition of Excellence Award, which recognizes coalitions with short-term and intermediate outcomes, which is 1 to 4 years. And the coalitions applying for this award have been around for a few years or have been working on an initiative for a few years. The third one is the Coalition of the Year Award, which recognizes coalitions achieving short-term, intermediate, and long-term outcomes, which is between 3 to 10 years. And the coalitions applying for this award have been working in substance misuse prevention for years and are creating positive change in their communities. So for the application requirements, there are 2 phases. And for phase 1, the coalitions will submit the 6 coalition products taught in the National Coalition Academy. And this will include the community assessment, the logic model, the strategic and action plan, the evaluation communication plan, and the sustainability plan. And you also submit a description of coalition outcomes that you have achieved, whether they are short-term, intermediate, or long-term. And you can find these templates on the website. And these are just the guides, so you do not need to have your application looking exactly like the templates as long as the content is there. So for phase 2, this offers coalitions the opportunity to go beyond what you studied in the National Coalition Academy and use your products and outcomes. It allows you to showcase how you were able to achieve those positive outcomes. So first off, you need a short 10 to 15 slide presentation telling your coalition story. This could include thoughts, processes, the steps that you took, and some activities that you did. And the second one, you need an infographic, which is a quick and easy way to lay out important information in an appealing or eye-catching way. And depending on the infographics audience, it can be shared throughout your community. And these 2 are very intentional requirements since both of them can be repurposed to share your story to stakeholders, coalition members in your community. So these are the steps for the application. For step 1, you need to select one youth substance use issue that your coalition has successfully addressed and would like to highlight. So in previous years, some of the applications selected alcohol, prescription drugs, marijuana as some of their youth substance use. And for step 2, you have to identify the community level outcomes that your coalition has contributed to using the substance that you selected in step 1. and you have to pick one out of the three outcomes, whether it's short-term and intermediate outcomes, or short-term, intermediate, and long-term outcomes. And for step 3 is where you submit your coalition products and your description of coalition outcomes. And all the products that you are submitting throughout the application will focus on the one substance that you chose in step 1. So you have to choose carefully. So all of the application products submitted in phase 1 and phase 2 will be graded by subject matter experts. And the reviewers are all current NCA trainers and coalition development support coaches. They have extensive experience developing these products in their own coalitions, training first-year coalitions to develop and use these products. They will also grade the NCA participants' products submitted for graduation using the same rubric. So as you can see here, the logic model and the strategic and action plan have the most points, so you need to focus more on these. So this is a preview of the rubric, and this shows an example of parts of the community assessment product. As you can see here, the blue box shows the requirements for the community assessment product, and it talks about the definition of community. And the green box, you have the ratings for the definition of community that starts from 0 to 4. And in the purple box, you have the weights for the different ratings that we have. So moving on, I'll be talking about the mapping outcomes to logic model. So in this example, this is the coalition in focus. And this is for short-term outcomes, which is 6 to 24 months. And for this, you need one local condition. And you have to make sure that you share your baseline plus 1 to 2 follow-up data points to show trend. For the coalition of excellence, we have 2 options. And for this first option, you have to show outcomes for 1 root cause and 2 local conditions. And this is for intermediate outcomes. So this is between 1 to 4 years. So you have to show your baseline data and 2 to 3 follow-up data points. For the second option of the coalition of excellence, you need to show outcomes for 2 root causes and 1 local condition associated with each. Again, you have to share your baseline data and 2 to 3 follow-up data points for each outcome. For the coalition of the year, it also has 2 options. And for this first option, you should share 2 local conditions under the same root cause and then the problem statement. And this is for long-term outcomes, which is 3 to 10 years. So you should share baseline and 3 to 4 follow-up data points. And this is the second example for the coalition of the year. And this too, you should share your problem, your 2 root causes, and then 2 local conditions, 1 for each. And this is also for long-term outcomes, which is 3 to 10 years. So once you have collected your data for the award that you're applying for, this is an example of how to show your data. So for this one, it's displaying outcomes in your trend data. So if you select one award category, you have to either show a graph or a table of the baseline data and follow-up trend data points. And you have to include descriptive statements about the data and outcomes achieved. So for this one, it has the local condition here. And as you can see, there's the baseline, which is 65% for 2019. And then the 2 data points for 2021 and then 2023. So a few helpful reminders to help with the application. No matter which award category you apply for, make sure that you're still including a full logic model. So for this example, there's one problem, there are two root causes, and four local conditions. The root cause and two local conditions highlighted in blue, they are the elements of the logic model this coalition is sharing data outcomes for. And when you submit your logic model, please highlight these data that you'll be submitting the outcomes for. Another helpful reminder is to make sure that you're including any data you've collected in your community assessment. For example, if you have police arrest numbers or focus groups or survey data, you have to include those. And all the data found on your logic model should also be found in your community assessment. For the strategic and action plan, we are now requiring you to have both goal 1 and goal 2. And please remember to use the grading rubric as a guide when you are preparing your products, because the rubric will tell you exactly what the graders are looking for in each of the products. So these are some of the benefits of why you should participate in our Blue Ribbon Coalitions. First, for the applicants, you get in-depth feedback provided for each of your coalition's products. And you also have the opportunity to be recognized as a CADCA Blue Ribbon Coalition. For the Blue Ribbon Award winners, you'll be recognized in CADCA's Coalition's newsletter, Blue Ribbon websites, and other CADCA communications. You also be featured at the CADCA Blue Ribbon Awards session at the 2025 National Leadership Forum. Okay, so, sorry. Moving on, I would like to invite our two winners to ask them these questions. So whoever wants to go first can go ahead. The first question is, what steps did you take to complete the application?
My internet is unstable, so it's breaking in and out. So can you repeat that last part? I'm sorry.
Okay, first question is, what steps did you take to complete the application?
For our first step, we attended all the webinars such as this. That was our very first step to understand the process and what would be expected of us. We also applied for and attended the graduate coalition process, and we utilized the coalition development support services in order to update and revise our products. Those were our main sources of resources and our steps.
Okay. Jasmine?
Yeah, so we again, we watched some of the webinars. I was new into this role when we kind of applied for this and it came to our opportunity. Previous staff that were part of this coalition had attended the National Graduation Academy itself. And then we were recommended to attend the GCA, and one of the requirements from GCA was to do those 3 weeks and then submit our application for Blue Ribbon process. So we attended GCA for 3 weeks, used a lot of that information we learned into submitting the Blue Ribbon application itself. And it was very helpful.
For question 2, how has the application process influenced your coalition's work?
I think for our Community for Positive Development Coalition itself, we are in year 10 right now. I've only seen it for 2 years. So it really has shown us, like, we applied for the it was a Coalition of Excellence. So it's like the middle outcome itself, to really look back at all the data and continue working on the data, but also data is going to be your best friend in this, and making sure that we stay up to date with that data and community assessments. And every so often we go back to what we've done and seen the progress that has been accomplished already.
Madeline?
It's the whole application process really improved our coalition's work by being able to revisit and update our documents. Yeah, also, like, just sometimes in prevention, you're just plugging along, doing the work, and you're not sure if you're being effective or busy or effective or busy and effective. So going through this process and really gathering the data and linking it to our logic model and our outcome, we're making a difference. And just to being able to recognize that yourself was
Okay. So for question 3, what difficulties did you face during the application process?
I'm gonna be honest, it was a lot of time. It was a lot of time and effort. I don't want to scare anybody in the right way, but you have to really be prepared to be able to balance the work and effort that updating and submitting these products has, but also on your daily coalition duty.
I think the biggest difficulty we had on our end was not realizing that our logic model was not up to date, and it had been a couple of years since they last updated it. Like I said before, data will be your best friend. So every time you do get new data, input those numbers, take that time, because that will save you time from digging on Google Drive or OneDrive, wherever you guys have your information. The more up to date information you have, the better, smoother process you will have through this application itself.
And the last question, what's one piece of advice you give to potential applicants?
I mean, I would say to utilize the coalition development support. We've done them heavily throughout the whole process. If you can attend the GCA, attend the GCA. It's a time commitment as well, but it was super beneficial in the process as well. And to be realistic and how much time effort is going to take. And start now if you plan on doing it. As Justin said, get your data gathered and ready so that you already have a leg up in the process.
Once again, data will always be your best friend in this process. But I think really collaboration is key. Use your sectors, different representation sectors you have. Use your community partners to help you with the data you need. And it is okay for you to ask them for help in whatever pieces are needed. With the community assessment, the action plan. There's a lot of documents you will be submitting, but again, make sure you do this as a collaborative coalition itself and use your community partners to help you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next slide. So if you go to the Blue Ribbon website, you'll be able to download the full application package. And I have the QR code here if anyone wants to scan it now, but we also do have it on the website. Okay. So the phase 1 application is due on Friday, June 28th. And you have to submit your application materials as one file through our online form. And also I do have the QR code here if anyone wants to scan it. And this is the website where you can submit your online form. So if you have questions about the application requirements, you can email the Blue Ribbon at cadca.org. And if you have questions about application support and feedback, you can email the Coalition Development Support at training@cadca.org. And you can also schedule an appointment. Yeah. And if you do go to the website, we have the links for these appointments too. Okay. So please keep these important dates in mind. Most importantly, the phase 1 application deadline, which is June 28th. And this will also be found on the website. So, okay. So does anyone have any questions?
You know, while we wait to see if anyone has any questions, I would like to say that this past year's class of Blue Ribbon Coalitions not only were recognized publicly at the National Leadership Forum with CADCA, but they were invited into a White House event sponsored by the Office of the National Drug Control Policy. This whole process and this recognition was created for coalitions. It was created to help them be recognized for the great work that they're doing, and to have something that can be celebrated within their own community. And a lot of recipients of the Blue Ribbon recognition have done exactly that. One of my favorite examples is in Beech Grove, Indiana, where they invited the mayor and General Barry Price, our CEO, traveled out there, and there was a lot of a deal made about their Blue Ribbon recognition. And I think it really helps for them to become more visible in their community, and it really highlights the work of coalitions nationwide.
So I'm seeing questions in the chat. So if you do have questions about the application, please send the email to blueribbon@calca.org. And if you do go to the website, you find all this information too. And we'll also post the recording and the slides on Blue Ribbon websites, so you can go back and look at all this information. Does anyone have any questions for the panelists?
And our colleague, Carolina Duth, put in the email for one of the panelists, Ms. Marlowe, who was having some spotty internet. So questions can go to her directly if something occurs to you after the webinar. But a great resource, the people who've joined us here today, really strong coalitions, and most importantly, they're very gracious to give their time.
Thank you very much to Jasmine and Madeline for joining us. And if no one has any more questions, I'll end this webinar. Okay. Thank you for joining, and have a great day.